All right, good morning, everyone. Welcome to the committee meeting of council for Wednesday, September 15th. It's a mixed day out there. It certainly feels like fall is in the air. We understand that harvest is progressing. A lot of cattle liners on the road. A lot of animals being moved home and being marketed maybe a little sooner than normal. With that, you have before you the agendas. We'll call the meeting to order. Are there any additions or deletions to the agenda? Seeing none, do we have a motion to adopt the agenda? By Councillor Duchesne. And is eScribe working? Maybe? Okay. So far, so good. And that is carried. Okay. It's a good sign. All right, we do have a delegation at 10 o'clock. That's the C2 will be here. New business, planning and community services. And the first item is road allowance leases versus licenses.
Yes, good morning, Council. Pursuant to the March 3rd, 2021 committee meeting of Council, Council requested clarification on the temporary occupation or use of a road allowance lease versus a road allowance license and the associated public access permissions and requirements. Administration has amended policy 30-34-02 leasing of closed road allowances on October 21st, 2020 and instead created policy 4A.007 licensing of road allowance policy attached as Appendix B. The policy was amended from leasing to licensing of road allowances within the municipality. Leasing and licensing, although they achieve the same result, have two different administrative processes. The differences and similarities are listed in more detail in Appendix A. Overall, though, the two main differences have to do around the requirements of approval of the Minister of Transportation. So if we have a road allowance lease, it requires the approval of the Minister of Transportation, while a road allowance license does not require that approval. As well, a new bylaw is required at the end of a 3-year term for leasing of road allowances, even for a renewal request. A road allowance license agreement can be renewed after the 3-year term under the initially approved bylaw. So attached again for Council's information in Appendix A is a bit more breakdown between the two options, and then Appendix B is our existing policy. There is reference to the two provincial legislation documents, the MGA Section 24 as well as the Traffic Safety Act Section 13. If council has any questions, I'd be open to those.
Any questions? Okay. It looks like red tape reduction, but
yeah, for sure.
Councillor Jubenville.
Yeah, no, just a comment. I'm surprised we hadn't done this 10 years ago or whatever. It just looks like a great step forward, right? It's like you said, red tape reduction.
Councillor Jubenville.
So my question is, so is the 3-year that is something that is mandatory, or could we change that? Like in some cases, like we know that it's a long term, so why couldn't you want to reduce more red tape? Why not 10 years in some cases? Because you can nullify the agreement within 30 days. You have 30 days notice, right, that you could change it at any time if necessary. Mm-hmm. But I'm just wondering, is the 3 years, is that something that's mandatory, or? I
understand that the 3-year term is a standard, whether it's a license or a lease for a road allowance. However, I can confirm that and get back to you.
Okay.
Okay, we see a nodding of the head. That's correct.
A maximum of 3 years.
Okay, there we go.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you, Lisa.
Any other questions? Okay, we just need a motion to accept this as information then.
Yes, please.
By Deputy Reeve, And we can call the vote. That is carried. Thank you. Next item is the Kinnisou Ridge Resort winter season rates.
Yes, for this one, I'd like to call up Bowen Clausen, our Director of Parks, Recreation, and Culture.
Morning, Mr. Clausen.
Morning, Mr. Reeve and Council. So this is the annual review for the Kinnisou Ridge Resort 2021-2022 winter season rates. These are required to be set prior to the opening of the winter season pass early bird sales. Currently, these rates reside within the MD recreational facilities policy fee schedule. Administration will be combining these fees into a comprehensive MD master rates bylaw that will be coming back to council at a later time this year. So administration reviewed the current rates as shown in Appendix A, the Kinnisou Ridge Resort 2021-2022 winter season recommended fees for the 2021-22 season. These current rates were compared with similar sized hills, and recommended rates were then developed from this and adjusted to be near or below the average of these comparable facilities, or to maintain current levels in other cases. Some rates were significantly lower than the minimum market range. However, administration is advising to adjust these over a few seasons instead of full market adjustment right away, reducing the impact there. Attached are the recommended fee schedules and their comparables, or comparisons to last year, and the market range. And this does tie in with the strategic plan of building a prosperous and sustainable community. As well, we placed in there just the excerpt out of the MGA, just referring to council may include a fee schedule within a bylaw. And that's, which again will be coming later date. The projected revenues will be incorporated into the 2022 Kinnisou Ridge operational budget, and our recommended action is that council approves the 2021-22 winter season rates for the Kinnisou Ridge Resort as presented and incorporate them into attachment B of the policy number 3B.003 recreational facilities policy.
Okay, thank you. Questions? Councillor Jubenville.
The early bird sales generally go on sale when?
Through the reef to Councillor Jubenville. We're aiming to, as soon as these are approved or whichever direction council gives, we look to advertise these immediately with ticket sales to commence mid-October. So we do a kind of an advertising thing for them, and then those tickets would be mid-October. It's tying in with our new ticket sales system that we're using, and it will be in place and working at that time. So that's kind of what we're shooting for. So.
Thank you.
Councillor Fadiv.
Thanks, Mr. Clausen. In regards to, you kind of briefly touched on it. So say this goes ahead, how are people able to get on board with the early bird? And you were saying there's a new ticketing system. And could you explain that?
Yeah. So through the reef, it'll be very similar to last year's. It'll be all online ticketing, and they can purchase all online season passes or whatever they would like. So very, very similar and a bit user-friendly, more user-friendly than the previous methods.
I know with last year it was online sales only. Is that going to be the same way, or is that going to be, or can they buy at the Hill as well?
I believe we'll be open to a mix, because we now have staff that can help people if they do want to go through manually doing it that way. So yeah, that'll be open
Nice.
to people.
Councillor Jubenville.
I'll make the motion that we go with the recommended action, Mr. Reeve.
Okay, that council approved the 2021 winter season rates for the Kinnisou Ridge Resort as presented and incorporate them into attachment B of policy number 3B.003 recreational facilities policy. Councilor Dave.
Yeah, just, so are we adopting the policy as well with this, right?
This is only to incorporate them into that policy at this time.
Yeah, yeah.
Just because the policy also talks about playgrounds and rental of tables and things like that. And so that's, we're adopting that policy.
Okay, Ms. Campbell?
So this is specifically an attachment to the policy, all the other rates will remain as is. The only impact here is specifically for these Kinnisou rates. So the previous rates that you see already in there for our campgrounds and whatnot, they will be incorporated as well in the upcoming, probably later this winter when we put together our master rates bylaw and to be presented to council later this fall, early winter.
Thanks. So in regards to the master rate bylaw, so we're also going to see the changes with the adventure park as well, and all that's going to come into play then?
That is correct.
Okay, thanks.
Okay, I did speak with one rather engaged resident who actually saw our council package and commented on the affordability of the season passes for their family, and we're very appreciative. So with that, we will call a vote. That is carried. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Evening Council.
Okay, next is infrastructure services. And the item is 2021 Energy Efficiency Contest.
Morning, Mr. Eve, Councilman. We're here today with an RFD for the 2021 Energy Efficiency Contest. The MD of Bonnyville continues the proactive energy management initiative it launched in 2020 to reduce the municipal utility costs, improve the efficient use of energy in its operations, reduce its environmental footprint, and build overall a culture of energy conservation. Administration is proposing for the MD to maintain its engagement with the community on this initiative through a proposed energy efficiency contest in coordination with Energy Efficiency Day happening across North America on October 6, 2021. So at this time, I'd like to get our energy officer, Joad Clement, to come up here and discuss what the contest is all about.
Thank you.
Thank you, Brian.
Morning.
Good morning, Council. So as we had last year, we proposed an energy efficiency contest starting on Energy Efficiency Day on October 6th this year, celebrated across North America to make homes more and buildings more comfortable, healthier school and hospitals, and better lighting systems overall, and as well as delivering energy efficiency savings for all of us, including our municipality. The event in general is sponsored by Energy Efficiency Canada, and we have also the support of the Municipal Climate Action Center in Alberta here, and close to 100 organizations and municipalities across Canada doing that kind of same events, though we do have a more original version of it with our energy efficiency contest. So the two prizes we are proposing, like last year, two sets of prizes, and home energy assessment delivered for, on one side, to staff, and other side for residents. So two options to win the contest, staff and residents. And councillors, obviously, as on the staff side of things. We have recommendations for energy savings at home, and as well as a basket of energy saving products with, in partnership with the Village of Glendon, some swag that will be offered with the MD. as well. So in summary, what we're looking to achieve here is to raise awareness among our residents and staff on energy efficiency and energy use, and also to provide actionable measures for people to save energy at home. The recommended action is to approve the energy efficiency contest as presented. I will
Okay.
take on your questions now, if you have any.
Questions? It's very timely. Natural gas is going up.
It is.
No questions, but yeah, timely discussion on this topic. I was out at the Imperial Oil site fishing on one of their local lakes, and they must have initiated a major cost savings energy efficiency program there, because not one of their yard lights is on in any of the pads, only a few in their plant sites. So it's pretty dark out there nowadays when you're camping. So there you go. I'll make a motion to accept this
As presented.
as presented.
Okay, thank you. Any other comments, questions? All right, you can call the vote.
Just a comment, but yeah,
Go ahead.
this doesn't affect the vote. I think last year I seen a lot of activity on Facebook and everything else. There was a lot of activity on it, and people were quite engaged, and I think this is great.
Yeah, through the reef, I believe we had close to 40 residents participating in a contest last year and 15 staff overall. Yeah,
All right, good job. That motion is carried. Thank you.
thank you.
Okay, next up is the CAO.
Thank you, Mr. Reeve, members of council. This particular request for decision is regarding a funding request to the Bonnyville Friendship Center. They have submitted a letter to the MD Bonnyville requesting financial support towards the Bonnyville Friendship Center Men's Shelter, which has been in operation since 2020. Attached in Appendix A is a request letter, and they have requested $50,000. At the Town of Bonnyville Council meeting held on August 24th, 2021, the Town Council approved the provision of $15,000 to the Friendship Center for the Men's Shelter and directed their administration to work with the BFC to have them submit additional information, including but not limited to a financial statement, before their council would consider funding the additional $25,000 balance later this year. Our recommended action is that council directs administration to request further information from the BFC, including a financial statement regarding the men's shelter program, so we can determine what would be the best way to assist them. If there is any funding, it would be sourced from the General Municipal Department 2021 operating budget, grants to industry and non-government. Council options are that the council directs administration to request further information, that council approves a contribution in the amount of X number of dollars towards the men's shelter program, or that 3, the council denies the funding request received by the BFC for the shelter program.
Councillor Fidev.
I know the John Howard Society in City of Cold Lake did the same thing with the city, and I don't think we helped out with any of that. I think FCSS is involved with that, and they help out, and so was the government, and so provincially and federally, so I'm not sure where we want to go, but my initial thought would be to deny the request.
Okay. Councillor
Sorry,
Sparky.
just, the letter they sent says they want $50,000 to keep it open for 3 more months, so $200,000 a year to operate it. I'm not sure. I think we'd need kind of more of a breakdown on sort of what they're doing with the funding and how they're operating, because we can give them that much money and then they shut down in 3 months. So to me, it sounds like there's something missing here. I'm not sure where they're going to get their funding after the end of 3 months, but.
Okay. Councillor Jubenville.
Yeah, I think I would echo Councillor Swaga's words about requiring more information before anything is done, but so I'm not sure.
Okay, that sounds like directing administration to request further information from the Bonnyville Friendship Center, including financial statements. Is that?
And I think so, Mr. Reeve, and I'd just ask maybe a presentation by them also. But definitely more information.
Okay.
Yeah, definitely the long-term funding is a concern, so.
Okay, looking for a motion? Okay, Deputy Reeve makes the motion to go with the recommended action to direct administration to request further information from the Bonnyville Friendship Center, including financial statement regarding the men's shelter program. Okay, any further discussion? We can call the vote. That is carried. Thank you. Next item is the 2019 Alberta Community Partnership Grant Project Update. Morning again.
Hello, yes. So back in 2019, the MD of Bonnyville was awarded $125,000 through the Alberta Community Partnership Program to cover the costs of an external consultant to come in and complete our ICF with the City of Cold Lake. However, in April of 2021, the project was completed without the need to hire a project consultant. In an effort to still utilize the approved grant funding, administration worked with our grant project partner, the City of Cold Lake, and identified that an intermunicipal trail master plan would be a mutually beneficial alternative project that we could pursue in order to still meet the requirements of the grant program and to use the grant funding. During discussions with the city, it was agreed that collaborating on the development of an intermunicipal trails master plan would enhance the recreational trail services for residents in the region, as well as be beneficial for long-term planning in our two municipalities. It would also encourage outdoor activities by connecting the current and future recreational trail systems within both the MD as well as the city. Administration is pleased to inform Council that the MD has received approval from Municipal Affairs for the ACP grant project scope change request and will be moving forward to complete the project over the next 18 months. This feeds back to our strategic plan of building a prosperous and sustainable community. All costs associated with the project will be funded through the already provided grant funding program from our 2019 grant application. So Council is just recommending, Administration is just recommending that Council accepts the 2019 Alberta Community Partnership Grant Project Update as information.
Okay, thank you. Councillor Fadeev.
I'll make that motion. Yeah, it's, I'm excited to see this, where this is gonna go. And, yeah, there's a lot of, yeah, I'm excited.
Okay, Councillor Swigert.
Yeah, I'm somewhat excited too. I just wondering kind of the money, it'll be just used to, I guess, pay a contractor to write a master plan, will it? Basically, is that what we'll do?
Through the Reeve, so we actually, as part of putting in our scope change request, we did get an initial breakdown of how the project will be undertaken by the project consultant, and it does include quite extensive public consultation, not only within our own trail systems between the two municipalities, but as well as other nonprofit groups who do have trails as well. So it is going to be a comprehensive final document, which will incorporate our existing trail plan as well as the city's. So it's going to be kind of a one-stop shop where we have everything all in one spot.
Okay.
Okay, thank you.
Okay, we had a motion here to accept as information, essentially. And yeah, we've talked about this grant a lot over the few years, and it has been a pleasant surprise, the negotiations that have gone on with the City of Cold Lake for the MD. It's nice to see. So with that, we can call a vote. That is carried. Thank you. Okay, we still have a few minutes. Let's go into council invitations. First one from the Lloyd Chamber.
Yeah, thank you, Mr. Reeve, members of council. So we received two invitations for council this week. One is from the Lloydminster Chamber of Commerce for Thursday, October the 7th. There are 2 complimentary tickets the MD has received to invite the Reeve and the Council to the Economic Partnership Summit at the Lloydminster Exhibition Grounds. And the second invitation was Northern Lights Public School, the Bonnyville Centralized High School grand opening event on Friday, October the 1st at 11 a.m.
Okay, questions on these? Councillor Duchesne?
To the Reeve and Al, so they just only want 2 people to attend the Lloydminster Chamber meeting, or are they just offering 2 free ones?
Thank you. Through the Reeve, Councillor Duchesne, I think their letter said 2 complimentary tickets for your mayor, chief, Reeve, councillors to attend. I'm going to assume from the invitation that it's probably for 2 people. I don't think the second ticket is for everybody. However, if council would like to purchase additional tickets, I'm sure they'd be open to that. But I think the intent of their invitation was for 2 individuals to attend from the MD of Bonnyville.
Thank you.
Okay, anything else?
Yeah, with that extra person, it would be a good idea to get the economic development officer that we have to go with the Reeve, or should we, or the
Yeah, it
deputy?
is business related for sure.
It's yeah, economic development, right, partnership.
Okay,
I mean, we could purchase 1 extra ticket too, right?
Absolutely,
For
yeah.
him, so if the CAO and the Reeve and our economical development officer would be available.
I'll make the motion to extend 1 ticket if needed.
okay. So that's the, approve the attendance of 2 plus 1 ticket?
Plus 1 ticket
Okay.
if needed.
Okay, further discussion? Okay, we can call the vote. Councillor Drew.
One comment, Mr. Reeve, is that if our economical development officer cannot go, that I think we have 2 councillors that sit on the committee.
Yeah.
That one of those
You bet.
be allowed to go, so.
Okay, is that good? Okay.
Mr. Eve, if I might, just some clarity. The motion says 2 members of council plus an additional ticket. Will
Yeah.
that be 2? Would we like to name the 2 members of council, the Reeve and another member, or?
I think the Reeve CAO and possibly the economic development guy.
Okay.
Can I ask,
So-
Mr. Reeve, does the I mean, it'd be nice to have a CAO there. Is he willing to go?
Oh, sure.
Okay. No, I'd like to see the CAO there
Yeah.
with the Reeve and Economic Development and maybe another councillor if,
Can the motion be as simple as having 3 attend? So purchasing 1 more ticket?
No, a day in Lloydminster is, you can hardly wait.
sneak across the border into Saskatchewan. Is that, Mr. Reeve, is that fine then, Councillor Fredev? Because
Yeah.
there was a comment about having maybe 2 of the members from the Economic Development team there with, or not required maybe? I don't know.
I think right at this time, you know, you're not sure
Three's
how
fine.
that, with being close to the election and then come October, those 2 members might not sit at that same board. So I think having the key players there is important, and then we'll kind of go from there.
Sure, if we can just bring it up.
To the even council, do we need to rescind the last motion?
No, it never passed.
Never got voted on?
Yeah.
Okay. Thank you.
Okay, we can call the vote on this one. All right, that is carried. Let's deal quickly with the high school reopening. I am able to attend that. And do we need a motion to that effect? Okay, we do. Okay, who wants to make a motion? Okay, thank you. Councillor Jubenville makes the motion for myself to attend the grand opening. And we can call the vote. And that is carried. Thank you. All right, we have a delegation from the Bonnyville and District Centennial Center. Good morning, Mr. Parsons.
Good morning. So I've been now at the C2 for 3 months as a general manager with some new eyes on the place. Looking at the potential of the facility and the staff team we have there, we've got lots of things on the go. One of our questions is sustainability as we're looking at developing our strategic plan for the next 3 to 10 years. And sustainability is part of that. So our energy costs are over $500,000 was the last full operating year we had. Joad contacted me back when I first started saying I've got this energy stuff. I just know Joad is a cross-country ski guy in our club. So then when I actually had him sit down and explain to us the magnitude of our energy cost, it's about 1/8 of our budget, consuming more energy than the rest of the MD combined. So it's a huge priority for us in our strategic plan. Our request that Joad will outline here right away is much beyond myself. It's a short-term investment for long-term benefit. Really, it'll depend lots on the GIBC grant that Joad will outline because the funding is in place to heavily subsidize the energy conservation projects. I'm super impressed with Joad. He's one of your employees here. He's done a ton of number crunching, testing the reality, talking to his peers across the province, looking at other facilities, what they're doing. So he's really, cracked the whip and pushed me on this. And the bottom line, obviously, is the financial part, the long-term economic gain to the C2. And the short term is it is expensive. But if the funding does come through to us, we're well positioned to make it a reality. If we don't get these grants, we're hooped. It would probably be off everybody's budget lines. So I think I'll turn it over to Joad right away to let him go with the presentation.
Thank you, Les. Good morning again, Council.
Morning.
So we do have a presentation today. I will probably scan through the key slides so that, thank you, we have a good understanding of the situation and basically the easy decision for us at this point is, do we support moving forward with grant applications for those projects? But I'll just put a bit more context around that. So as Les mentioned, the situation with the C2, we pay around $500,000 in utility bills per year, obviously split in two between the town and the MD. But we also see that our facility, the C2, is a little bit above average in terms of energy consumption, so we could do better. The average across multiplex, the same type in Alberta is 1.85, and we are, as of this year, around 2, so we can do a little bit better. So that's one way to see that there are opportunities to improve efficiency. So how we came across with those lists, so we identified many options, obviously. 27 identified so far, some are already implemented. And those for the ones that we're looking at require capital investment that are not budgeted for at the moment. The good thing is that there is funding available for those projects from the province and the federal government. So we have the Alberta Municipal Solar Program. We have the Recreation Energy Conservation Program at the provincial level, and at the federal level, announced 2 months or 3 months ago, was the Green and Inclusive Community Buildings that could fund the energy efficiency upgrades or accessibility upgrades for facilities. We identify 6 measures that could be implemented, and here's the cost-benefit analysis. You basically, those are investments. So we invest money, and if we get positive money back, the net present value, it's a good investment. And at the end of the day, we can rank those projects, compare them with one another, and how much, say I put $1,000 in a project, I get my money back, and then I make an extra $1,000. I have an saving to investment ratio, the last column on the right-hand side of 1. So that's a good investment. And you can see that all those projects have a net present value, so they are creating basically money for us. They are in good investments, provided that we secure the funding for those projects. And we can rank the projects, but again, as I mentioned, all of those are net positive value for us, so a good investment for us. There's a case where we would have all the funding that we asked for, the case that we get some of the funding, so that's the acceptable case on that second slide. And you can see that if we were to implement all those projects for $1,000 investment, over the life of all those projects, we get $3,000 back in our budget through operations, obviously, and through reduced energy bills and reduced maintenance costs. So the request for us here at this moment, we have included a contingency of 15% because we are still in a preliminary design phase of those projects. We don't have the exact costing, so we added 15%. The request overall comes to, in terms of internal funding, that would be probably split in 2 between the town and the MD, comes to $500,000. Yeah, $495. If we were going to go with all the projects. The recommendation is to proceed with the grant applications to secure the funding that we might be receiving from those 3 programs. It's a unique opportunity, or utility costs are rising, as we have just discussed before. All those projects have a solid business case, mitigate or future risk of increase of utility rates. And it's also a good energy management leadership opportunity that we have at the moment with those projects. The request is to provide a letter of support and to proceed with the grant applications. I will
Councilor
take
Fadеев.
questions.
Yeah, so who's the retail supplier for energy right now for the C2 Center?
I have a few more through the reef. I have some more information through or appendices here. We have the retailers listed there. For electricity, we have Direct Energy, and for natural gas as well. And we have the RMA starting next year, I believe, or through 2024. I can provide more background on that, but it's Direct Energy at the moment as the retailer.
Yeah, because I look and I see that natural gas RMA is quite a bit less, but then on the electricity part, Direct Energy is a little bit less. Once you commit to a certain company, do do you have to go there with both gas and electricity, or can you separate that?
I believe we can separate, and those were rates that we have secured in the past. Obviously, there's no certainty beyond those dates here. Those are the independents. We pay electricity
Right.
and natural gas separately. However, there could be maybe some synergies for a retailer to offer some discount if we buy both, but I'm not privy to the private discussions that happen at the time of the negotiation of those rates.
Okay, that's fair. Yeah, thank you.
Questions? You presented at the town, and what was the decision there?
The decision by the town was to see most of actually all accepted one project as a good business case. The information that basically the town of Bonnyville accepted to go ahead and support all the projects and funding applications. I'm just going back to our list of projects. The town decided to not support the photovoltaic system on the roof at the time. However, the price that were listed there were from a quote from 2 years ago, and in the meanwhile, we got an update on those costs, and they are 30% lower. In 2 years, those costs came down 30%, and that probably there's a consideration here to review their decision on that specific project. Otherwise, all the projects were supported in principle to go with the grant application by the town, yes.
Okay. Councillor Fadeev.
Yeah, could you explain to me that system? Could you explain to me that system that you're talking about?
Oh, the
photovoltaic system on the roof?
photovoltaics?
Yeah.
Photovoltaics panels are typically mounted on a roof or on the ground to produce electricity. Basically, we self-generate some of the energy that we use, and when we produce more, which will not be the case here because we have huge energy consumption in terms of electricity, couldn't be exported back to the grid. So it's grid connected, and it's inverter talking to the grid and using electricity internally if needed, or exporting to the grid if there's a surplus that is produced. This is a system, those systems are becoming more common across many buildings, and now you can have a standalone, what we call solar farms, that would be basically a power plant producing electricity from solar energy.
Sounds good. Thank you.
At the C2, I actually spoke against the PV on the roof, only from my previous experience. It's problematic, and I know the pricing, yes, has come down, but I think it would require a lot more investigation before proceeding with that one. The remainder, I don't have a real issue with. As far as the solar walls, I think sometimes the amounts put forward for savings are a little ambitious, perhaps unrealistic. And because there's a lot of maintenance required to one of those systems as well. So,
Mr. Reed, just a question, maybe a comment about that photovoltaic system on the roof. I mean, there's lots of people now doing that. This one says can be financed by NMAX. So a system that we'd buy from NMAX, would they not manage it and monitor it and maintain it? Or how does that work?
Yeah, so we do have actually a relationship, a preliminary relationship in terms of getting information from NMAX, and they would be working with a contractor to actually install the system. What they offer through that partnership is to finance the project. And if I can go back to your comment, Mr. Reef, that the maintenance is actually quite minimal on those systems. We do have to account for replacing the inverters after 12 years within the 25 life of these projects. Otherwise, in max, yes, we'll have, or the contractor will have a monitoring system in place. We will know the production from those panels. Can calculate the savings from our end if needed. However, those systems don't move. They have no moving parts, and the only maybe thing what we would budget for, and it's actually accounted for in those cost savings, is to go on the roof once a year for inspection or cleaning if needed. That's the only maintenance that we would typically do beyond replacing the inverters after 12 years. And I have used conservative numbers in my electricity rates, and when you will compare these from typical installers, you will see more value from them, but those are conservative rates. I'm expecting that could be the kind of worst case scenario in terms of financial outcome.
Mr. Reed, so that's the kind of the bigger cost. I'm totally in favor of doing that, but, so that's the bigger cost, I think, but it's also, the grant you're getting is close to, was it 1.5 million? And the cost of that was, I think, 1. Right, so it's, I mean, it's like kind of, you're not losing by applying for that grant and going through these systems. So if you didn't go with that system, you're gonna apply for 1.5 million and not, you couldn't even apply for that much because you'd never use half of it then, I don't think, would you?
No, your grant funding is only going to be applicable to those items that you choose.
So that's kind of my point. Don't lose the money just because we're not, you know.
There's no guarantee on grant funding, though.
No, for sure. But then I'd say if you don't get any grant funding, you probably don't do most of this.
So the decision about funding comes later, so now it's about supporting in principle the projects, because obviously the funding organization will see some internal support for the projects, otherwise they will decline or deny the grant application.
Okay, Mr. CEO?
Thank you, Mr. Members of Council. I just, for Council's consideration, a letter of support may infer a predisposed position in terms of MD funding. I just want to raise that for Council, that if a letter of support is given, then by the numbers here, 499,000, if all of the grants are accepted, then there would probably be an ask of the MD for some $250,000 plus or minus a couple of dollars. I just want to make sure Council's aware that the letter of support may, although Council can, you know, have a different decision at a later date, it would certainly put Council in an interesting position to approve a letter of support and then deny funding.
Councillor Duchesne.
To the Raven Council, yes, I think I'd like to have this discussion tabled, this decision, so that we can discuss this further. I think there's other things to discuss on this project. If we could do that in our private meeting, in closed session or something, because we have other things to think about when it comes to this decision. So if we could just table it for one meeting, I would ask that.
Are you saying that we just simply accept this as information right now?
No, I'd like to table this decision till the
Okay.
next meeting and have a discussion amongst ourselves about that.
Okay, we have a motion to table. Yep, we can call the vote.
Mr. Reed, can I just ask though,
Yeah.
well, we haven't made we've made the motion, we got to vote on it.
Mr. Reed, members of Council, once a table motion is on the floor, there is no discussion
Yeah.
regarding the motion.
But there is a vote on the motion.
Correct.
Yeah. Okay, we can call the vote.
To the Reven staff, not trying to stop this or any other way, but I just think we need to discuss it some more. That's my point.
Quick question, so there's no time limit to this, or do we give us limit till next week?
Through the reeve to members of council, Councillor DeShane in the table of motion indicated to the next meeting.
Okay, sounds good, thank you.
And that is defeated. Okay, so we still have the discussion before us. I understand that there is also a time limit on the grant application. Do we know when that is?
Yes, for the Green and Inclusive Community Program, which is the federal one, there is a few years as we speak. That could change, we don't know. For the municipal solar program and the the recreational energy conservation programs, these programs, we are seeing a few months up to potentially 1 or 2 years left of funding in these programs. However, for some of the measures that were identified in there, the funding is closing for the rec program. So we have a few months to act on this, in my personal opinion.
Okay, thank you. Okay, where's council going?
So there's no, Joad, so there's no date to that funding? You said a couple months. What does that mean? Is there like a drop dead at like December 1st? Is there a date on that?
So as an example, for the Realize project that is listed there, they don't accept newcomers, new applications in the program. So, and basically we're on a waiting list with no commitment.
Okay.
But when they say you are next, is to implement the project, have you secured the funding, we will basically have to drop out that project, which was the one that was the most cost effective. And it varies by project. I can get back more information on each of the projects.
That doesn't sound complicated at all.
Doesn't, no.
Mr. Parsons, you have something to add there?
Yeah, just one of the concerns on our part as well is we don't have someone like Joad on staff at the C2, and his contract just goes into next year with the MD. So we would certainly like to get the grant proposals in as soon as possible, because they're going to come back to us with a whole bunch of unanswered questions we have to re-answer, because we've done that with our CFEP and other grants as well. So our timing is to take advantage of Joad while he's here, because what he brings to the table we don't have in terms of energy conservation expertise within our staff. So,
Councillor Jubenville.
Yeah, so I'm definitely in favor of this, and you guys need to be commended on all the work and all the research you've done so far. And I think that when we have the opportunity to basically upgrade and modernize some of our facilities, we have potential here to get 1.75 million basically, including the town's input, for 250,000. I think it's a pretty good deal. So I would make the motion that we go with the recommended action.
Yeah, which recommended action?
We need to move for the application of carry on the application of grant.
and I certainly want to note Al's concern that the wording would have to be that it's contingent on the grant funding, that we're not going to be coming and ask the MD for the 250,000 or whatever amount it is. It would be completely contingent on the funding.
Councillor Scarza.
Yeah, I just want to echo Councillor Jubenville's thoughts that anytime you can make an investment of $250,000 and get $1.7 million back in returns, it's a no-brainer in my mind for sure.
No, the same comment. I'm 100% in favor of it, and I would. People are kind of questioning photovoltaic cells. I know the Reeve knows, but if you look at Jenny's Diner, just straight west of Jenny's Diner, is that the Native Friendship Center that put up?
Métis Nation of Alberta.
So they put up a big panel. I mean, Joad can maybe tell us a little bit about that, because you drive by it. When you drive by it, it's huge, right? It's on the ground, but this will be on the roof. And I know of other rec centers that have done this. I know they did it in just outside Edmonton, Leduc, And we viewed that one. I'm in favor of it.
Mr. Reeve, if I could suggest that we should have two motions, one to accept the presentation as information, and a second motion, the council approves providing a letter of support, if that's council's desire.
Okay. Let's deal with the first one, accept as information. Who wants to make that one? Councillor Fadeev, and we can call a vote on that. That is carried. Thank you. Okay, next motion is in regards to a letter of support. And if I have that correct, it was letter of support for all items listed?
Yes.
Okay.
But Mr. Reeve, would that be contingent on receiving the grant funding?
Full grant funding?
Yeah. So does that have to be part of the motion?
It should be.
Yeah.
Mr. Reeve, members of council, this motion is simply to provide a letter of support,
Okay.
not to spend any money. This is purely for a letter of support.
Okay. I still can't support the photovoltaic system. I just, without more information on that rooftop, we don't even know the condition of the C2 roof at this point in time, and what type of system would be put up there. I think it's premature to make that decision.
Mr. Reeve, can you just expand upon that a bit? Because the letter of, we probably need Mr. Clements to do that, but the letter of support says, does it actually say we're supporting these items? I think it would, the 6 items. But it doesn't necessarily mean that when you get to that stage, that you have to go ahead with the photovoltaic system if it obviously isn't going to work. If it's going to cost you double, then I would assume that you wouldn't do it. But at this stage, I'd love to see them look at trying to do that. So I don't think the letter of support has to change.
Through the reef, the wording actually for the grant application for one of them is actually very interesting. What we're committing to is to look into securing funding. So we are not committing the funding, we are looking into discussing securing the funding for those projects and supporting the projects. So that decisions about funding comes later, but what right now we are committing to have that discussion about looking into the funding for those projects. And we can absolutely have individual discussion about the individual projects, and we do have more background information about the solar PV coming especially from one of the quotes that we received. Yeah, absolutely.
Okay. Okay, so the motion before council is that we approve a letter of support in principle of energy savings initiatives as presented. Okay? So that does leave an opening to decline any portion thereof afterwards.
Yeah.
If we make that clear. Okay?
So it does open up that option then?
Yes. Okay, we can, if there's nothing else, we can call the vote on that. And that is carried. Thank you.
Thank you very much.
Okay, let's take a 10-minute recess, and we will.
Mr. Reeve, if I could indulge the chair to move item 5.1 out of closed session into open session.
Sure thing.
Thank you.
5.15 moved into open session, and we can deal with that right now. Sure. So this is the Fort Kent and Ardmore Fire Hall update.
Thank you, Mr. Reed, members of council. So as everyone's aware, the Fort Kent and Ardmore Fire Hall construction has been somewhat problematic over the last year or so. We have, as of last week, administration issued a notice of default of the contract to the contractor. We did receive communications from the contractor on Monday, late Monday afternoon. We have responded to their request for some clarity today, and we should have some further updates in terms of what's going to happen probably later this week and into early next week. We did have a meeting with legal yesterday. I don't want to get too deep into the legal discussion in an open session, but suffice it to say there is activity and significant activity taking place on that file on the legal front.
Okay, thank you. Yes, there's not a whole bunch to say on that, but we certainly are aware that, the residents are watching those buildings and nothing happening. Yeah, unfortunately, all the action is taking place in offices and not on the ground. Okay, thank you. We'll just have a motion then to accept that update as information.
I'll make that motion.
Councillor Duchesne, and we can call the vote. That is carried. Thank you. Okay, now we will take a 10-minute recess.
Mr. Reeve?
Yes.
Would it be possible to go ahead and make a motion to go into closed session prior to the recess? Or not just yet?
I think we want to, for transparency, I think we want to introduce the items that are going to be used in closed session.
Okay.
So, yeah, we'll do that when we come back.